There are hidden corners in the human soul where an inexplicable, almost visceral aversion is born. Hate is too strong a word, but dislike, irritation, that low growl inside when someone else, seemingly unremarkable, suddenly becomes a magnet for all our hidden frustrations. Have you met such people? Those whose confidence seems like arrogance, whose vulnerability appears as feigned weakness, and whose success feels like unearned audacity? Those who seem to effortlessly possess what you meticulously hide, desperately lack, or have forbidden yourself from expressing. This phenomenon is universal. It transcends social status, education, or worldview. It's not merely personal antipathy. It's something deeper, more ancient than a simple clash of personalities. It's as if an invisible code activates, signaling a breach of internal boundaries, an intrusion into the sacred space of your psyche. But what if this breach isn't an external attack, but an echo from within? What if the person who elicits such strong, almost uncontrollable aversion in you isn't your enemy, but merely a living, breathing mirror? A mirror reflecting not their flaws, but your own long-forgotten or forcibly suppressed gifts, your unrealized potentials, your own rejected shadow. Here lies a paradox capable of overturning your perception of reality, shattering conventional constructs of consciousness. The one who evokes your strongest dislike, who seems to embody everything you despise or fear, is in fact the keeper of a key to your own stolen power. This isn't just a metaphor. It's an archetypal drama unfolding in the depths of your psyche, a story of the voluntary or forced exile of a part of the self. Imagine that this person is not merely an observer, but a living embodiment of an aspect of your soul that was rejected, banished, locked away in the prison of oblivion. Your irritation isn't just a negative emotion. It's the cry of your own imprisoned potential, desperately trying to break through layers of self-deception, through thick veils of illusion. Is anger at yourself for not daring to be the same, for allowing the world to strip you of a part of your true essence, your original wholeness. We live in a world where we are taught to suppress, hide, and be ashamed of certain aspects of ourselves. Ambition might be labeled greed and selfishness, healthy aggression as cruelty and callousness, vulnerability as weakness and inadequacy, and the right to make mistakes as a sign of incompetence and shame. And when we see these forbidden qualities manifesting freely and unreservedly in others, it evokes not just irritation, but a deep, almost existential pain. It's the pain of realizing that we ourselves, perhaps voluntarily or under pressure from circumstances, have cut off entire continents of our inner world, walling them off behind fear and judgment. And now these continents inhabited by our exiled qualities shine in others like beacons, simultaneously alluring and repelling, pointing to a lost treasure. Your strongest aversion is not a curse, not an accident, but a guiding star. It points directly to those qualities you once deemed dangerous, unacceptable, or unworthy, but which are in fact the foundation of your true power, yourself, your wholeness. Each time you feel that burning sensation inside, that prick of discomfort, know this. It's not just an external reaction. It's an internal compass pointing to a treasure buried beneath layers of fear, societal judgment, and self-denial. It's an invitation to return home to yourself, to your authentic power. But why does this mechanism work so flawlessly, with such ruthless precision, manifesting again and again in the most unexpected situations? To understand this, we need to return to the scene of the very first transgression. In that inexplicable, sometimes agonizing dislike for another, which we've discussed, lies not just an echo, but the root cause of our own fragmentation. It is the invisible trace of an ancient amputation, an echo of the moment when a once whole self was fractured. Recall your childhood self, trusting, sparkling with primal power. Pure ambition resided within you, the drive to learn, to achieve, to be first. Healthy aggression, the ability to assert your boundaries, protect your space, your truth. Vulnerability, openness to the world, readiness to feel the full spectrum without armor. And of course, the sacred right to make mistakes, for it is through falling and rising that true knowledge is built. But then the world began to speak to you in a different language, whispers of condemnation, glances full of disappointment, words that landed like heavy stones on your heart. Don't be greedy when you reached for more. Good girls, boys, don't act like that when righteous fury simmered inside. You're strong, don't cry when your soul yearned for an outlet for pain. You can't make mistakes, be perfect, when any stumble was branded with shame. The step-by-step from crumbs of others' expectations, from the fear of rejection, from the desire to belong and be loved, you built a prison for your most vital qualities. You learned to turn away from them, to hide them deep within, to convince yourself they were bad, shameful, dangerous. You exiled parts of yourself that were essential for your full flourishing, for achieving true wholeness. This was not a sudden act, but a slow, sometimes unconscious agreement with the world. I will become what you want me to be if you will love me. And in this agreement, you relinquished your birthright power, your authentic self. At what precise moment in your life did you first hear this verdict? When did you learn that your natural drive for success was greed, that your ability to stand up for yourself was aggression, that your openness to feeling was weakness, and the right to imperfection was a sign of incompetence? Recall that first sting of shame, the initial fear of being judged for what was your unconditional nature. In that moment, in that unspoken prohibition, lies the root of your shadow. These qualities, once exiled, didn't vanish. They merely went underground, continuing to influence your life from the depths of the unconscious. They are the energy awaiting liberation, the potential straining to break free but encountering invisible walls you've erected yourself. It is the understanding of this internal exile and its profound consequences that holds the key to reclaiming your authentic power. For each of us, like an ancient myth, carries within a story of lost treasure, hidden in the darkest corners of the soul, awaiting its return home. We've spoken of the unseen mirror reflecting our rejected essence, of the stolen power lurking in the soul's depths. But why don't these suppressed aspects simply disappear? Why do they continue to emanate such powerful, at times destructive energy? The answer lies in the universal principles of the shadow, the immutable laws that underpin our understanding of wholeness. Imagine an ancient tribe striving for purity and unity, banishing anyone who carried something undesirable, dangerous, or alien. This deeply archetypal act symbolizes our own exile from the tribe, not from the external world, but from our inner one. In response to the fear of rejection, to judgment or pain, we ourselves become the priests of this ancient ritual, expelling from our conscious I, those qualities that were once ridiculed, punished, or simply not accepted. We build prisons for our ambitions, for our passion, for our vulnerability, for our healthy aggression, for the right to be imperfect. These exiled parts do not disappear. They merely retreat into the psyche's underground, becoming invisible but no less potent. They transform into phantom pain, inexplicable anxiety, obsessive reactions. This is the unpaid bill energy. Every suppressed quality, every rejected opportunity, every unlived desire is a debt that accrues interest. The psyche abhors emptiness and injustice. What is repressed doesn't simply lie dormant. It demands release. It seeks return. This energy will manifest through projections onto others, through self-sabotage, through inexplicable internal conflicts, through illnesses. It will knock on the door of our consciousness until we decide to pay this bill through recognition, integration, acceptance. Recall the ancient ritual of the scapegoat, which existed in many cultures. All the sins and diseases of the community were symbolically placed upon an animal, which was then banished into the wilderness, carrying away the collective shadow. Society believed it was purified this way, but in reality the collective shadow merely changed form, sprouting into new fears, prejudices, conflicts. The one who was banished didn't disappear. Their absence only highlighted incompleteness, and their sins continued to live in the subconscious of those who banished them. Similarly, in our psyche, by banishing a part of ourselves, we don't get rid of it. We merely render it invisible, but its influence becomes even more insidious as it operates from the shadows without our conscious control. These universal laws of the shadow determine our interaction with the world, forming invisible threads that connect us to those who unwittingly become carriers of our rejected power. We've discussed the invisible threads connecting us to our own shadow, the stolen power awaiting its return. But where can we find these threads? How can we recognize the face of what has been exiled? The answer, as is often the case, lies not externally, but in the mirrors that the world fearlessly holds up to our eyes. Look closer at the figures who evoke in you not just dislike, but irrational hatred, deep contempt, or a burning, inexplicable irritation. Ask yourself this crucial question: what types of people, in the context of achieving wholeness, trigger your sharpest, most visceral reaction? This isn't just about personality clashes. It's about what resonates with your own repressed reality, with those parts of your psyche that have been rejected and locked away in the prison of the unconscious. Often this manifests as archetypes whose expressions seem blatant, unbearable to us. Perhaps for you, it's the unscrupulous usurper, someone who seems to know no bounds, who boldly steps over others, takes credit for others' ideas, demands attention, power, recognition, without a hint of remorse. Their voice is loud, their gestures expansive, their ambitions unrestrained. They seem to embody everything you've suppressed within yourself: the right to assert yourself loudly, to conquer, to dare, to refuse to apologize for your existence. Their audacity is your own, chained by politeness and the fear of judgment. Or perhaps the irresponsible hedonist sends shivers down your spine, someone who lives solely for pleasure, unburdened by obligations, discipline, or rules. They are frivolous, unpredictable, perhaps even wasteful or chaotic. Their spontaneity is your suppressed yearning for freedom, your capacity for lightness of being, for play, for letting go of endless control and planning. Their lack of seriousness is your own exiled need for joy without conditions, for the right to make mistakes, to be imperfect. Or perhaps your trigger is the manipulative victim, someone who seems to always play on emotions, evoking pity or guilt to get their way. They can be subtle, barely perceptible, or overtly dramatic, but their energy drains you, causing a dull irritation. Their ability to influence others through emotions, their need for attention. This is your own forgotten capacity to be vulnerable, to express your needs, to influence the world, not through force, but through the subtle energies of feelings, or perhaps your suppressed need for care and compassion. Let me give you an example as striking as a flash of lightning in the night. Imagine Olga, a successful executive. She had always been a paragon of restraint, professionalism, and impeccable ethics. Then a new employee, let's call him Mark, joined her team. Mark was the embodiment of the unscrupulous usurper. He laughed loudly, interrupted, blurted out half-baked ideas in meetings, and wasn't shy about taking credit for others' achievements if it served him. He didn't just annoy Olga. He provoked fits of rage that she meticulously concealed. Her hands trembled when he spoke. Her thoughts spiraled into a vortex of contempt. How dare he? How does he get away with this? He's incompetent, just a brute. Her inner voice whispered. She saw in him the quintessence of everything she found unacceptable, repulsive. The more successful Mark became, the deeper her internal agony grew. She felt her own energy draining away as if he were feeding on her suppressed anger. This irrational hatred was so strong that Olga began to avoid meetings with him. Her productivity plummeted and her inner world became a battlefield. She couldn't understand why this particular person and not someone else triggered such a storm in her soul. It is in this visceral reaction, this furious aversion, that the key lies, because the shadow, like a loyal dog, always points to what you have exiled, but what still yearns for recognition. This demon that pulsates so fiercely in your field of vision actually carries something invaluable, something you once rejected, but which is essential for your full flourishing. It is a distorted reflection of the power you forbade yourself, a resource you took away from yourself. If in the previous turn we gazed into the abyss of aversion, recognizing in it a mirror of our own exiled essences, now it's time to illuminate this abyss with inner light. For what we brand as a vice, what we reject with such fury, is rarely pure evil. More often it is a distorted reflection of lost power, buried virtue, a stolen right. Every demon you banished beyond the threshold of your consciousness carries not a curse, but an encrypted message. It is the guardian of a treasure you once deemed dangerous, too powerful, or unacceptable for your bright image. Ask yourself a question, piercing as a ray of truth cutting through the darkness of self-deception. What valuable ability or right did you forbid yourself by exiling this vice into the shadow? What right to exist did you strip from yourself, fearing to become like them? Recall the unscrupulous usurper whose audacity provoked irrational rage in you. Perhaps it's not just aggression, but your suppressed ability to assert yourself, to break down walls, to take what rightfully belongs to you without waiting for permission and without being ashamed of your power. This is the right to healthy ambition, to daring, to leadership, to the courage to be first, even if it seemed inconvenient to others. It's an energy capable of moving mountains, but locked in the prison of fear of being judged for impudence. Or the irresponsible hedonist whose frivolity seemed unforgivable to you. In their carefree nature, which you branded as a vice, lies your own fear of life, your denial of the right to guilt-free enjoyment, to spontaneity, to that lightness of being that doesn't require constant control and tension. This is the right to play, to joy for joy's sake, to internal freedom from endless shoulds and musts, to self-sufficient happiness independent of external evaluations. You forbade yourself the taste of life, fearing to lose control. And what about the manipulative victim whose intricate ways evoked revulsion? In their seeming weakness, which transforms into implicit strength, lies your unrealized wisdom in understanding subtle human relationships, your ability to influence the world not through direct confrontation, but through the art of empathy, through the delicate weaving of dialogue, through embracing your own vulnerability as a source of profound strength. This is the right to flexibility, to strategic thinking, to the ability to build bridges instead of walls, to the wisdom of seeing beyond the facade and acting non-linearly. Each of these dark facets that we so diligently project onto others is merely a distorted reflection of our own untapped power, our unrealized potential. This is not an invitation to become unscrupulous or irresponsible, manipulative, or victim-like. It is an invitation to integration, to extract pure gold from the ore, to transform poison into medicine, to reclaim those vital aspects that were exiled to the periphery of consciousness. For the shadow is not merely a dumping ground for undesirable traits, but also a repository of unrevealed gifts that await their time to be returned to the light of the self. This is not a struggle against oneself, but a return to oneself, to one's authentic, whole nature, where there is no room for fragmentation and self-denial. And if this process of integration seems difficult, if it requires the courage to face one's own fears and delusions, it is only because we have not yet realized the full price of abandoning it. The price we pay every day, living an incomplete life, deprived of the very strengths we so diligently hide from ourselves, unconsciously sabotaging our own movement towards wholeness and happiness. We've discussed the shadow, its unseen influence, and how, like a phantom, it pursues us in the guise of those who evoke sharp aversion. But what happens when this phantom doesn't just follow, but begins to dictate the path? When the fear of becoming like the very images we so diligently exiled from our own consciousness, the unscrupulous usurper, the irresponsible hedonist, or the cunning manipulative victim, becomes an unseen hand gripping the throat of our own destiny. Imagine a person who deep down yearns to lead, to create something grand, but each time an opportunity arises to assert themselves, they are stopped by an invisible wall. They see Mark, that unscrupulous usurper, and a wave of righteous anger rises within them. How dare he be so brazen, so rude? Their inner voice whispers, I will never be like that. And so this person, driven by the fear of resembling their antithesis, declines leadership positions, avoids public speaking, voluntarily remains in the shadows, even if their ideas could change the world. They choose a path of humility, not because it's their true choice, but because it seems safer than risking the expression of suppressed ambition and confronting the projection of their own usurper. As a result, they feel incomplete, unheard. Their potential remains locked in the prison of fear, and wholeness is merely an unattainable dream. Their fear of being like the demon from chapter 4 deprives them of their own greatness, forcing them to make decisions that cut off the path to their authentic self-expression. Or consider another story, a woman whose life is scheduled down to the minute, every step calculated, every choice rational. She despises the irresponsible hedonist, seeing in them the embodiment of chaos and carelessness that, in her opinion, leads to ruin. She has suppressed within herself the spark of spontaneity, the desire for play, the right to make mistakes, and unbridled joy just for the sake of it, without reason. Her life becomes a highly efficient but lifeless mechanism. She declines party invitations, cancels unplanned trips, fears losing control, fears wasting time, fears becoming that very irresponsible figure she condemns. In her pursuit of order and security, she loses access to vitality, to spontaneity, to true enjoyment. She becomes a prisoner of her own ideal, deprived of the very vibrancy that is an essential part of a whole personality. Her fear of being like the demon from chapter 4 forces her to choose to live in a cage built by her own hands, depriving herself of freedom and the fullness of being. And what about those who fear being vulnerable, who learn from childhood that showing weakness is an invitation to manipulation or becoming a victim? They see the manipulative victim and recoil, erecting impenetrable walls around themselves. They will never ask for help, even when drowning. They won't allow themselves to cry, won't show pain, won't open their souls. In their pursuit of strength and invulnerability, they paradoxically become fragile because they lose the ability to build deep, authentic connections. They cannot accept love, cannot trust, because any act of intimacy seems like a potential threat. Their fear of being like the demon from chapter 4 makes them reject their natural need for human warmth and connection, condemning themselves to loneliness and personality fragmentation. Perhaps you're thinking now, but must I become like those I despise? Does accepting the shadow mean I should start acting unscrupulously, irresponsibly, or manipulatively? This is a key objection, and it's absolutely justified. No, shadow integration is not an invitation to mindlessly indulge your dark impulses, is not permission to become who you condemn. On the contrary, it's an invitation to consciously harness the energy behind these qualities, is an opportunity to take control of the power that currently operates from the underground, forcing you to make disadvantageous decisions. It's a process of conscious choice where you reclaim the right to ambition without becoming a tyrant, to spontaneity without losing responsibility, to vulnerability without becoming a victim. It's not about becoming them, but about understanding them, accepting them as part of the human experience, and then choosing how these energies will manifest in your life, but from a position of awareness and strength, not fear. True wholeness is impossible without this deep immersion and acceptance. For if we turn away from our shadows, we also turn away from a part of ourselves, losing access to a vast source of energy, creativity, and vitality. We condemn ourselves to a life of constant deficiency, a life where invisible threads of fear and judgment pull us back, preventing us from fully unfolding. However, the shadow is not only what we reject. Sometimes it manifests in an entirely different way, hidden behind the radiance of admiration, behind those we elevate to a pedestal, projecting onto them our most cherished yet unrealized dreams. Previous chapters of our exploration have delved into the abysses of the shadow, where exiled aspects of our personality reside, qualities we rejected out of fear, suppressed under external pressure. We discussed the mirrors of aversion, reflecting our dislike for unscrupulous usurpers or irresponsible hedonists, and how these projections point to our own unintegrated ambitions, spontaneity, or vulnerability. But the shadow, like an ancient deity, is multifaceted and deceptive. It not only conceals what we hate in others, but also absorbs what we admire in them to the point of infatuation. Imagine golden dust falling from your soul each time you bow before another's greatness, another's talent, another's freedom, perceiving them as something unattainable for yourself. This is the golden shadow, a treasure trove of your unrealized gifts, your undiscovered power, your uncalled for potential, which you unconsciously project onto those you elevate to a pedestal. Is not just admiration, it's a deep, sometimes unconscious belief that these qualities belong to them, not to you. You see the sparkle, but you don't realize it's just a reflection of your own unpolished gold, waiting for its moment to be discovered. We give away our power, our energy, our light, turning others into idols, while the true source of that light lies within us. This projection is the subtlest yet most powerful act of self-sabotage on the path to wholeness. For how can one become whole if precious particles of your soul are scattered across others' figures, if your inner treasure chest seems empty because you yourself have given away its contents? You become an eternal seeker, constantly looking outward, while everything you need is already embedded within. Look into the mirror of your admiration. Who is your idol or the object of your deepest reverence in the realm of achieving wholeness, mastery, freedom, or any other quality you aspire to? Perhaps it's a charismatic speaker whose confidence seems like an unattainable peak, or an artist whose capacity for self-expression evokes awe and envy, or a philosopher whose depth of thought appears to you as an unimaginable chasm. Pause for a moment and ask yourself the most piercing question, one that can break through the veil of illusion. What are your own talents and unrealized abilities that you have gifted to them? What qualities you so value in another are actually your own, simply not yet manifested or deeply suppressed within? This does not mean we shouldn't admire. Admiration is a spark indicating possibility, a potential path to growth. But when admiration turns into worship, when it disempowers you and makes you feel less whole, it signals the golden shadow. It is the whisper of your soul, attempting to reclaim its exiled yet beautiful aspects. You cannot become whole until you gather these golden fragments, until you acknowledge them as your own. An unintegrated golden shadow keeps us trapped in a constant search for external gurus, external sources of inspiration, and external validation. We unconsciously believe that the key to our greatness lies with someone else, not within ourselves. This creates a vicious cycle. The more we project, the less capable we feel, and the stronger our need for new idols who will once again take our light, carrying it away on their wings. True individuation requires not only the courage to face the dark aspects of your shadow, but also the bravery to acknowledge your own, often dazzling, inner power. It demands the reclamation of all your parts, both those that terrify you to the core and those that awe you to the point of breathless admiration. Only then can we begin to gather the true self, unburdened by either rejection or projections. This process of reclamation is not merely a metaphor. It requires conscious action, a specific movement of the soul that begins with recognition and acceptance. And when we realize that the key to our own wholeness lies within, true transformation begins. We have navigated a path through the labyrinths of the unconscious, illuminating the shadows that dance on the walls of our soul. We have seen how rejected aspects of ourselves, whether fierce ambition or tender vulnerability, are projected onto the canvas of the world, creating patterns of attraction and repulsion. But this act of projection is not a sentence. It is an invitation. It is not a curse, but a map to a treasure, to a power that was once exiled but never lost. For true power, the authentic self, does not wait beyond the horizon. It resides in every corner of your being, awaiting recognition. The essence is not to become the shadow, but to reclaim the energy you have given away to it. Every projection is not merely a distortion of perception. It is an energetic anchor holding a part of your life force outside of you. Imagine invisible threads stretching from you to everyone you judge or admire. Each such thread is a channel for the leakage of your own power, your creativity, your capacity for action. But once you realize that what you see externally is merely a mirror reflection of what is internal, these threads transform into bridges leading back to yourself, returning every bit of what was once discarded or given over to worship. The mirror practice of reclamation is your compass in this uncharted inner world. When you are overwhelmed by a wave of irrational aversion to the unceremonious invader, the irresponsible hedonist, or the manipulator victim, pause in that moment. Allow the emotion to pass through you without clinging to it. Then take a deep breath and ask yourself the question that will become the key to your freedom. What quality in this person elicits such strong aversion in me? Where does this quality, or its suppressed opposite, or its exaggerated form, reside within me? How do I reject, deny, or fear expressing this within myself? And how, if I embrace it, can it become a source of my strength, my protection, my authenticity? Or when you are seized by a wave of excessive admiration, when you see in someone an enlightened master or an unstoppable creator whose brilliance overshadows everything around them, stop again. Do not surrender your inner crown to them. Ask yourself, what specific quality of this person captivates me? Where does this talent, this spark, this potential, this unrevealed genius reside within me, awaiting its awakening? How can I begin to manifest this quality in my own life, even in the smallest, most inconspicuous way, step by step, reclaiming my own greatness? This is not a call to immorality or narcissism. It is a call to wholeness, to the truth of yourself. It is not an excuse for your dark side, but a recognition of its vital energy as an integral part of your potential, which can be transformed. Aggression, consciously recognized and integrated, becomes assertiveness, the ability to uphold one's boundaries. Fear, accepted and examined, transforms into prudence and wisdom. Vulnerability, not suppressed but revealed, becomes a source of genuine connection and empathy. Admiration for another's talent, when not projected outwardly, becomes a powerful catalyst for unveiling one's own, often dormant, genius. Every time you engage in this practice, you are not merely analyzing. You are performing an act of inner homecoming. You snatch a fragment of your soul from the shadows, a fragment that was exiled to the realm of external projections, and you restore its breath of life. You gather yourself piece by piece, step by step, restoring your original divine wholeness. This is not just a path, it is the alchemy of the soul, where the lead of rejection transforms into the gold of self-knowledge. Your power, once scattered across thousands of external images in endless reactions to others' actions and achievements, returns to its rightful owner, to you. You cease to be a puppet of your unconscious fears and desires, becoming not just an observer, but the architect of your own reality, consciously directing all the energies of your being. This is the path to individuation, to becoming a unique, incomparable self that fears neither the deepest darkness nor the most dazzling light, because it contains both, transformed into a single, powerful, harmonious whole. You are no longer a victim of internal conflicts, no longer a prisoner of others' expectations, but a sovereign master of your inner cosmos, capable of creating your life from a position of authentic power and freedom. But what happens when you reclaim all these parts, when the inner map of your soul becomes complete and you stand on the threshold of your true power? Then a new dimension opens, that of interaction. True power gained within inevitably begins to resonate with the world around, generating new challenges and new opportunities for growth that extend beyond the purely personal. And this interaction, this dynamic between inner transformation and external reality, is the next exciting chapter of our collective narrative.